Well, let's talk about retail, because retail was exciting last year and continues to be exciting. And I guess, you've heard that the Tri-Cities is an anomaly, and I will continue to say that we are an anomaly. We are a retail mecca in our own right. And it starts with certainly the sales tax distributions that each of the cities and the counties received in 2011. That was just recently put out. How this looks for 2011 is shown right here. Look at 2011. In 2010, we had fairly modest growth over what the rest of the state was doing, but look what happened in 2011. Several of the cities, and look at the counties, really prospered with additional sales tax distribution in 2011. That is a good sign for our community. Statewide, the overall increase was about 2.5%. So again, if you look back to how the cities and the counties did versus what the state did, you can see that Tri-Cities is in its own little area of the state, its own little pocket. Here's how we did compared to some of the other counties and these, when you look at the counties, Benton County, Franklin County, this includes all of the cities plus the county in these increases. Last year, the ones that I have starred, King County, Kitsap County, Spokane County, Yakima County, all had negative increases. So you can see that overall the state did much better last year. Two of the bigger counties, Pierce and Snohomish County, were actually flat, but we really did well compared to how our counterparts did in the state. Last year, I talked about some of the things I thought in 2011 that would be a factor for us. Bankruptcies certainly are a factor. If you look at nationally, some of the bigger chains that closed last year, Borders, Blockbuster filed bankruptcy, Dollar Thrifty is in bankruptcy, Eastman Kodak is ready to filed bankruptcy, and our own little Hostess just filed bankruptcy. And I think you're going to continue to see some of those underperforming stores that have been on the retail watch list for a little while also will have some bankruptcies in 2012. Some of the ones that are on the watch list and are certainly in this community as of now are Office Max. Rite Aid's been on the watch list for a little while. Radio Shack, Sears and Kmart. You just heard after the first of the year that Sears and Kmart's going to close 100 stores, one of them being in Walla Walla. So while that's good for the Tri-Cities, we'll pick up that business here at the Sears store in the Tri-Cities. That's bad for a smaller community like Walla Walla. In 2011, we saw the rising price of consumer goods, and that certainly made an impact on what retailers had to do. Also in our own state, obviously in 2012, we just had a minimum wage increase yet again. So that is going to impact consumer pricing. Inventory controls, the retailers have done a really good job over the last couple of years, obviously, since the recession started nationally, in trying to tighten up their inventory controls, not buying more than they have to, so things are sitting on the shelves. There will be that again in 2012, but plus there'll be some closing of underperforming stores, like I said. These retailers are really going to look at some of these markets where it just no longer makes sense to have a full store in that community and continue to drag down the entire corporation. But you're also going to see new growth, and I think we'll see new growth again in 2012. We saw new growth here in the Tri-Cities. Several new stores opened up in 2012. Several mom and pops opened new stores that were given the opportunity with new real estate that opened here in the Tri-Cities. And a continuing trend will be pop-up stores. I think one of the things that we just heard recently is Apple Computer now looking at doing little pop-up stores inside no other than Target. Well, what does that mean? For me, who's been trying to get Apple to come to this market, because we have all these geeky people here, it's kind of disappointing. I want to try and get Apple here, but they're looking at now some of their pop-up stores in Target. You've seen some other things like at the mall, See's Candy is a pop-up store. Toys R Us does pop-ups all around during the holiday season. Let's see, there was one other one that I just recently, Sunglass Hut has done some pop-ups in some of the larger department stores, and that's become a continuing trend that some of the retailers are starting to follow. Again, you can put a little store in there, keep it there for a couple years, see how it does in the market. If it does well, great, then you go with a full-line store, and if not, then you close it and walk away from it. Some of the trends, I think they're always important that, both we see nationally, but also trickle down to our own Tri-Cities. One of the interesting things I think is that, you're starting to see more and more people talking about a cashless society. It's coming probably in the next 5 years. Big players like Google and MasterCard, they're going to roll out their cashless initiatives in 2012. If you look at the little picture I have up there, that's called a Square, and it's an electronic device that you plug into your smartphone. And so if you're a small retailer that wants to be at an art in the park or something like that, and you don't typically have access to being able to, swipe credit cards, you can get one of these Squares, put it on your iPhone app, or plug it into your iPhone, and start swiping people's MasterCards or Visas or whatever. This will open up opportunities for little mom and pop stores to be able to go into different places and have this ability, instead of having to have a full service landline or a full service Wi-Fi that they have to create credit cards. They can go virtually anywhere and sell their products. These pass cards that you'll see, it's going to offer customers convenience, less cash that has to be carried around. I think that as we continue on in the next 5 years, you're going to see more and more of that, people carrying less cash. DIY health, that is, it's a do-it-yourself trend, okay? How many of you have a health app on your mobile phone? A lot of people run to them. A lot of people check their heart rate, check inclines when they go up. Right now, Apple has over 9,000 health-related apps that you can download to your smartphone. By 2012, it is projected that there'll be over 13,000 apps. People want to know about their health. Where's Rand? They're not going to come to you anymore. They're going to do it themselves. They're going to check their own blood pressure while they're walking around. But there's also, I saw a really funny thing that where you can scan your moles, okay? And it will look at your moles, and it'll look at, maybe 3 months down the road, you scan it again, and it tells you whether, there's been a change so that you need to go see your doctor or whatever. There is just a phenomenal amount of new apps and exciting apps in the healthcare industry. As Rand said, there will be a lot of healthcare type initiatives coming down. Dealer chic. When I talk about that, I'm talking about that consumers are securing, obviously, the best deals they possibly can. And because of the way we now live in this society, everything is immediately accessible, unless, of course, as I saw the other day, I say technology is good. However, when I was standing at the LAX airport and somebody's trying to have their boarding pass read by the TSA guy, and the TSA guy's thing goes down, and everybody's, quite honestly, complaining about the fact that they're holding up the line, then technology isn't that great. But everything is looking at ways to make life faster, make life more exciting for people, being able to find the best price, being able to sit. How many of you can sit now in a Costco store? I was talking to my girlfriend the other day who was sitting in a Costco store getting ready to buy a crib for her new grandson, and guess what? They can go right onto Consumer Reports and see, is this a good crib to buy? Is this not a good crib to buy? It is just phenomenal of the things that you can have access to so that consumers can make great choices right now. Idle sourcing, that's another product and service that is making an effort to get people involved right away. So if you're driving down the road and you see an accident, people are sending those in right away to radio stations, news media. You can also have some of the cities now are finding apps that allow real-time information in terms of when they're driving down the road and seeing potholes and stuff like that. You can relay it back to whomever, whatever department. If your city manager is driving down and sees, like I do, something at the mall, and I relay it back quickly so that it can be taken care of quickly. Those are some of the things that consumers are looking for and are engaging in, and I think that those are going to be bigger trends in the next couple of years. The other thing is, one of the things that I think is one of the new government trends that will be interesting to watch in 2012 is the Market Fairness Act. What is the Market Fairness Act, you may ask? Well, it's federal legislation to address the imbalance, and it gives states the power to collect sales tax from e-commerce sales. Now, I know people say, oh, that's not fair, but it is really fair, because look what's being left on the table here. $23 billion, with a B, dollars in uncollected sales tax right now is going on nationally from e-commerce sites, Amazon being one of the largest. In the state of Washington, what does that mean? That's $281 million in 2012 that is not being collected. Now, if you're a city or a county, there's found money, and that is a tax that most people, quite honestly, when you pay at a site, an internet site, most people buy for convenience. They expect to pay a sales tax. It's just a tax that has gone uncollected, and I think federal legislation this year obviously is going to look at that, hopefully level the playing field for the e-commerce, for the bricks and mortar stores versus the e-commerce stores. Your brick and mortar stores, look what they're giving to the communities. They employ people right in your communities. They're paying property taxes. They're paying sales taxes. And some of these e-commerce sites are just sitting there adding no value added to the communities that they sit in. So I think that this will be certainly the International Council of Shopping Centers is perching on this, quite honestly, very carefully and looking at what's going to happen, and maybe there'll be some movement in federal legislation this year that will allow these states to be able to collect some of this uncollected sales tax. So, what do I think is going to happen in 2012? Well, overall, I think that the national retail obviously we had an incredible holiday season this last year, and in this community especially. Who would know that people would get up from the dinner table on Thursday evening to go out to their favorite retailer and be there at midnight and be ready to eat pizza at 2 o'clock in the morning and turn around and go home at 7 a.m. and come back in the afternoon. I think a lot of that surprised a lot of us. And I think that you will see, obviously, next year, a lot more retailers jumping on the pre-Black Friday, or pre-Thursday now, as they're going to call it probably, bandwagon, because people really came out in droves this year. Nationally, I think that they're forecasting a 4 to 5% sales gain, and I think that that's a little bit, somewhat slower than what we saw in 2011. I think the first half of 2012 is going to be a little tougher as people are looking at repaying their credit card purchases from the holiday season. I saw one number that said credit card purchases in the month of November alone were up 10% over last year. So people will be getting those bills in late January here and having to pay those off. They're going to be putting back into their savings from over the last couple months. Also, I think, in the third quarter, there will be, as Paul said, when the Hanford contractors do make an announcement about layoffs, everybody does think it's them, and they wait to find out whether they're going to have a job, so that somewhat impacts it. However, it did not impact as much as I would have thought it was going to do last October. But this year, you've got a national election, and I think people are going to be somewhat polarized by watching what's going to go on in the national election to find out who's going to be in the White House and what kind of policies will be put in place as a result of whether there will be a change in the White House or not. So I think the first and third quarters are going to be somewhat slower than what we expect, but I would embrace the fact that I think our holiday season next year is going to be strong again, and that we will probably look at more like about a 4% increase in forecasting for sales growth in 2012, both locally, and a 4 to 5% increase nationally. So thank you very much, and I am thrilled that I got to spend my 50th birthday with all of you. Thank you.